When I get called out, I take it rather seriously. And yes, this is towards you. You know who you are, Thinking Man's Templar. Yes, I heard my name in your mouth. Specifically, about a video you wanted me to do. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to the Thinking Man's Templar. He is definitely one of the individuals who I consider to be an advocate and an ally for thinking men out there, particularly thinking black men. And in his Patreon, which I will leave a link to the Patreon itself, you will be able to see one of the videos. Granted, this is a Patreon video, so you're going to have to pony up for it, which he basically lifts the veil, no pun intended, on what is now becoming a pattern within the so-called community, where you have scraggle-daggles who will lower their standards to get with what a lot of people would consider bottom shelf brads. And in this case, I'm not going to go so as far as to go after the quote-unquote Brad, but we have to note this study, which afterwards I'll tell you guys how to respond next. In this Patreon video, there is a documentary where you have an individual who has a condition that is known as bilateral PFFD grade D. Basically, this is a disability that happens, and it's a rare case where you may have 25 people throughout the entire world who has this, according to what was stated in this mini documentary. This individual is severely disabled. Granted, it is inspirational, in which he doesn't allow it to hinder his life and to get a woman, particularly a decent looking woman. However, the woman that he gets is someone who is considered a part of the community. And it sounds like I'm disparaging the woman who is dating this dude. Well, not quite her in particular, but this needs to be noted that in the case of a lot of women within the community, they will lower their standards when it comes to certain men. Standards that they would uphold for men who look like us, or in many cases, will intentionally rig it so we will not qualify, or at the very least, if we do qualify, it will come at the expense of jumping through a whole lot of metaphorical and hypothetical loops and hoops. But in this case, Lifting the Veil Part 3, if you're interested in paying for the Thinking Man's Templar's Patreon, the lowering the standards for Zaddy, go ahead and watch that video. It's not too long, but this goes to show you that no matter what you do, no matter how much you try, in some cases, some men will always be seen as of higher regard than you. Now, I noted in my video when I talked about DJ Kid, Jason Roger Pope, that the selecting within the community is overrated at best. And that case where he slept with at least 6, I think it's more like 800 to 1,000 women, because considering the fact that he made that Twitter post in 2012, 6 years before he got caught, who knows how much more women he slept with. But in cases like this, we have to look at this case study, Lifting the Veil Part 3, for what it is. More proof that certain men are valued more than others when it comes to a certain group of women. Now, we all know this. You're saying, no, duh, we're gonna beat this with a dead horse, honestly. But I will say this. One, a lot of individuals who refuse to talk about the Jason Roger Pope DJ Kid fiasco will use the excuse of, well, he was only messing with the 85 octanes and the 83 octanes and the 76 octanes and 69 octanes. You know, the octanes I put in my dog's water bowl so he can look it up. No. When you look at the women who this individual who has this debilitating disability has, tell me if she's an 85 octane. Let's just be honest. Which goes to show you that this incident of bottom shelf Brad worshipping, not for this individual, I'm not calling him bottom shelf Brad specifically, but bottom shelf Brad worshipping, for the lack of a better term, this isn't some sort of incident that only happens with 85 octane or hood daggles, whatever you want to call them. This is something that goes beyond the scope of class, just like thug love. And yes, this needs to be called out. And I will not stop any individual who wants to call this out. And while it is an effective way to call out the matriarchy, call out gynocracy, call out the community, it's not the most effective way to fight against the matriarchy, against gynocracy, against the community. No, it isn't. Because, yes, you can point out all these incidents in the world. You can point out every single time a Daggle, regardless of her socioeconomic standing or her octane level, goes after a bottom shelf Brad. You can point it out all day, all night. But for starters, is it stopping them from going after bottom shelf Brad? Or in many cases, is it just pushing them more towards their way? Do you get what I'm saying? A lot of this is reverse psychology. It's like the individuals who say, oh, don't get with that guy because he's a player, he's a mech, he's going to break hearts and blah, blah, blah. A lot of these women who see this for various reasons will just be pushed to go to the kind of guys that you guys roast and call out and say that they're bottom shelf this and bottom shelf that. Whether it's to piss you off, whether it's out of curiosity, whether it's to rebel, etc. And to be honest, that right there should prove to you that if this is the way they react whenever you warn them about certain incidents and certain individuals, these aren't your women to begin with. Which leads me to my next point. Why are you showing your cards on the table? This is no offense to the Naked Men's Templar or anybody else who spends videos calling out Daggledom. But how many more times can we call out Daggledom? It's great for material. It's great for content. It's great for clicks. Great for views, Patreon, AdSense, whenever they monetize it. But all these years of calling out this Scraggle Daggle, or any Daggle of any race for that matter, what has it really done? Seriously. This is the reason why I don't make videos like this exposing Daggles for bed winching or thug loving or all this other kind of stuff. Yeah, I do get my roasting occasionally. However, I only put but so much effort into it. Mainly because, for starters, it's not worth the energy because they aren't our women. And second, it only goes to show that we care. Which, in my case, I could really give a rip. And that's the thing when it comes to a lot of men, even within the manosphere, men who I respect, men who I will tip my hat, give my nod, and pop my collar to if I ever saw them in real life. But you guys still care too much. That's the weakness when it comes down to the manosphere in general. Men care too much about the opinions of certain women who, at best, will not have respect for you until you conform to what they want, which, in that case, we all know, according to Red Pill philosophy, will lose respect for you after you succumb to their wishes and desires. Or number two, never had respect for you and never will have respect for you. But, yeah, we all saw what happened when a certain group of women decided to invade the manosphere. Let's just call it down the line. When they started to make their point about who's select, who's not select, who has swag, and who's alpha, and who's beta, all this other kind of stuff, that's when you saw all these schisms begin. That's when you saw this alpha mailing of the group begin, saying that, well, this girl likes me and she doesn't like you. And then you got other guys who were non-select switching up, saying, you can't be 50-50. I don't know if it's because they're trying to impress the Daggle or if some smart Daggle, one of these smarter ones, bribed one of these so-called non-select men in order to speak the kind of rhetoric that a year ago they were making videos about and roasting other dudes on doing. I mean, listen to this. This is the number one weakness when it comes to the manosphere. You all care. In the words of David Carroll, you Negroes just need to stop caring and give this Scraggle Daggle the hot rag treatment. I know Queasy 100 said, I guess it's a mixture of David Carroll and Queasy 100, but in any case, that's the thing. Certain women realize that you all care about their opinions, their affirmation, and their affection. That's all what this comes down to. And yes, A lot of this may sound like disapproval on the surface, but in reality, a lot of you guys still want that affirmation from this daggle. Out of all the videos I've done throughout the past few years, one of the things I would have hoped you guys got out of that was the relinquishing of whatever desire you have for female confirmation from women who are not worth it. Now, yes, female confirmation is important to be admired by someone worthwhile. I'm not going to even say it's not. I'm not going to be like one of these MGTOW monks and say, we don't need women, female women here to school. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to play too cool for school. It's important for women to like you and to have at least a few experiences of women seeing you as that total alpha. I'm not going to lie. That is something I will agree with the alpha males and pro dating coaches, pro select male crowd. I'll agree with them on that. However, when it comes to women who aren't worthwhile, why are you all still seeking their validation, even if it's in the form of condemning them? Because the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And when you reach that point of indifference, getting rid of that desire like the Buddha teaches, that is when you reach true freedom and when you will be able to have at least a morsel of a chance to get this scraggle daggle not even back on track. Forget that. You're not going to get this scraggle daggle back on track. But at the very least, you will allow this scraggle daggle to be a non-factor in your lives. She won't be able to control you. She won't be able to coerce you. She won't be able to ruin your life. She won't be able to force you to become a stereotype. Whatever she does will be to her own detriment, while you will have the freedom to be your own man. Now, I'm seeing a lot of people still this very day being coerced, whether directly or indirectly. And I'm seeing a lot of guys out here, even to this very day, even a lot of thinking black men who call themselves thinking black men, having their choices and their feelings and their actions and their emotions being determined by what some daggle does. But when you reach that point of not having any desire for pleasing the scraggle daggle, or just women in general, that is when you will have the upper hand. As I've stated multiple times, the best course of action in order to defeat the community, the matriarchy, and gynocentrism is to implement the wall of silence. Everyone else out there always bet on X.